Good afternoon everyone, welcome along to the UK Active Go-To webinar series powered by LIW. Today I'm delighted to tell you that we've got Kate Bickford and Peter Wilkinson joining us on the line. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start, as always. I'll try and explain a little bit about how we're going to move forward with this as well. So we do have two guys on the line, so it's going to be quite interactive. Kate's going to start off for us and then pass it across to Peter, who is going to follow up with some of the scientific side of the presentation, which will be really interesting. Guys, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to type them into me. I will see them up on the screen and I will be able to ask them to the guys at the end of the presentation. We can come to people that do have mics, but sometimes it does prove a bit difficult, and when you've got a million people speaking at once, it causes a massive issue. Right, so Kate, if you're ready over there, please feel free to take it away.
Hello, good afternoon everybody. As Fergus said, my name is Kate Bickford and I've been involved with the company Forever Living for about 7 years now. My background very different to Peter's. My background was in news, BBC News, and I was a journalist, presenter, director, all round smarty pants really. And when I first looked at this company, I looked at it because I thought it had a story. I actually thought I was going back to the BBC with an expose. How wrong I was. And here I am 7 years later, still involved with a company which I absolutely love. Peter, on the other hand, who I'll pass you to very shortly, had a background in further and higher education. He was actually head of biological and sports sciences for over 29 years, so he has immense knowledge. He was also a passionate sportsman. He'd been involved in football, in rugby, in tennis, in athletics, and he'd also qualified as a physical instructor at Loughborough in 1970. He has been using and involved in these sorts of things for over 20 years now. So it's my absolute pleasure to pass over to Peter, because he's going to take you through some information that I hope you will find fascinating. Peter.
Thank you very much, Kate, and good afternoon to you all. Peter Wilkinson here, trying to get going, so we haven't got much time. Enthusiasm will carry us through. Kate, if I can have our first slide, please. We haven't changed yet, Kate. Right, thank you. So when we're dealing with any sports performer, we're really dealing with two types of fitness which are very involved. One we refer to as psychological fitness, how you feel, whether you're in the zone. Lots of facets to this which are very, very complicated at times. And obviously we also deal with the physical fitness side. And in sport we tend to refer to both as stress in a positive term most times, rather than the usual psychological stress we use in everyday language, which you hear frequently. And they are very much interrelated. So not only can you be very physically fit, but you need to also have the psychological training and so on, and they both go together. So the worst thing for any sportsman to hear is to have to rest, because they're injured and go through all the processes, which then start to affect the psychology, etc. So we can move on to the next one, since we're looking at performance and energy, which is so vital to both these issues. When we're looking at the human body, the main source of energy comes really from carbohydrates, and as the word suggests, carbo and hydrates, it's very simple formula. When you're dealing with these compounds, they consist of carbon and a water molecule, CH2O. And the simplest one is glucose, 6H12O6. Basically it's telling you it's got 6 carbons and 6 water molecules. And the whole point about the carbs is that they are loaded with energy from photosynthesis, the process that happens in plants, battery energy, so that light energy has been trapped in a chemical form which can be used by plants and animals and humans. And the human body is geared up to actually break this glucose carbohydrate down to a very complex series of reactions which require lots of catalysts, feeding chemicals made of protein. We know that vitamins are vital to these processes for conversion, and minerals. So it's a very complex process that occurs in all our cells, and particularly in high energy tissues, in this case skeletal muscle and sport. So the reason glucose and carbs are the first source is quite simply because it's much easier to break them open and oxidize them using a molecule of oxygen, because it already has oxygen in the form of water. So H2O, oxygen, the oxygen is only needed to oxidize carbon and break the molecule up. And this then releases energy. Now, it is a relatively quick process, and to make this more effective, the body has developed the ability of storing these molecules in an insoluble form by linking them up in a bead-like fashion, if you like, into chains and also branch chains, so they become very compacted, insoluble in water, and they can be stored in muscle and in the liver as a molecule called glycogen. And this is assisted by a hormone called insulin. We can also convert it back to glucose so it's available for muscle very quickly, so that the oxygen can get in there and then break it up and release that energy that's so vital to us even getting up in the morning, let alone exercise. A secondary source of this energy, which is also based on carbon, are the fats and oils. The trouble with them is they have twice as much energy locked up in them as carbohydrates, but the problem is they have a lot more carbon without oxygen, a lot more hydrogen without oxygen, so they take a lot more oxygen to actually break them down. Therefore, glucose is the natural carbohydrate. Glucose is the first natural source and easily available. The third area is proteins, which are made up of amino acids, which are also carbon linked. So by having nitrogen added to them, they then become different molecules, and they are very, very important in the sense that they make up our body. So muscle tissue is made up of about 22% protein. We have our tendons made up of very strong protein fibers, ligaments, hemoglobin made up of what we call globular protein carrying oxygen, enzymes. So they are a phenomenally important group of chemicals in the human body, but they are not in the human body as a source of energy. They are part of it. And the only time you are going to need the protein as a source of energy is if you're into any form of endurance sport, which could be triathlons, marathons, and after about an hour of running or endurance exercise or so, you will run out of the stored glucose format, glycogen, in the muscle, and you will then start what we call cannibalizing muscle tissue to break down protein to give you amino acids, to try and change the amino acids into glucose and release energy. And that's where nowadays, knowing that, endurance athletes are advised to sort of add an extra 15-20% protein to their diet to actually get amino acids to help in this situation. Bodybuilders also use extra protein in their diet because they undergo tremendous resistance training and building up lean mass and tissue. So this is also important in that area. However, in a normal daily sort of situation where you're doing not quite as intensive exercise, to take extra protein into the diet is not a good idea, and there are certain limitations, because if you have extra amino acids in your diet, one of the things that's going to happen is your kidneys are going to be very busy breaking them down in a process called deamination, forming urea, and this combined with water and form urine. So it is a very specialist area. So normally by using the fat supplies, you would then start to lose genuine weight. If we carry on now, because I've probably spent too long on that one, we look at our energy release systems, what actually goes on inside your cells normally, particularly in very demanding tissue, skeletal muscle, which is highly adaptive. The common and most efficient form of energy release is called aerobic energy release, and that's the one that uses oxygen. Next slide, please. And by using oxygen to oxidize carbohydrates, we are releasing a lot of energy, and approximately 48% of that is trapped in a very complex system of reactions, which ends up in various molecules which then become available at the split second to break down and release it for muscle contraction, power stroke, and so on. The other 52% tends to be lost as heat, and that's why during exercise we actually get hot, and we have to then have a body system which starts to open up sweat glands to evaporate sweat to cool us down, and therefore we have another physiological problem that has to come in. We have to replace lost salt and water, electrolytes, and therefore drinks and so on. But this is the type of energy release system that occurs in what we call slow twitch fibers in muscle, which are used in endurance and stamina events, and therefore very important. In the advent of the muscle running even for a split second short of energy through this aerobic means, it has evolved the ability, which is a positive and negative, it has evolved the ability of breaking down glucose in the absence of oxygen, not terribly efficiently, but getting some energy out of it to keep the muscle going. And that is known as anaerobic energy release, and it's something that occurs in anaerobic exercise, which tends to be power, speed, training, short sprints, and so on. And it can exhaust muscle within 6 seconds. So you can have an event such as football, rugby. If you're in midfield, you might even run 10 miles during the course of a game, where you are using the endurance stamina energy release, and you might then have to sprint suddenly, and you're going into the anaerobic phase and then back again. And this build-up of lactic acid will also start to impede on muscle action, and it brings in fatigue and so on. So these two systems are very, very important, and they're ones that are sort of looked at in training, and they become more efficient. And getting fitter is part of actually making this whole thing work better. So when we talk about aerobic exercise, it has a meaning. It is exercise that involves oxygen and what we call slow twitch endurance fibers in muscle groups. When we're talking about anaerobic exercise, we are talking about fast twitch fibers, which use a lot of energy because you have to use 19 times more glucose to release the same amount of energy as the oxygen using one, and therefore can lead to fatigue. So anything that can reduce the switch from one to the other, or the build-up of lactic acid, can help the athlete, and those are important issues. If we move on, Kate, to the next one. This is just an electron micrograph of some muscle fibers showing these power packs or machines that we have in muscle that are thought to have originated from rod-like bacteria. And the interesting thing about them is that they are able to divide and produce more. So one of the features of aerobic fitness is that when you do a muscle biopsy, you would find that these power packs, which are machines that are involved in processing the glucose in combination with the oxygen, with all these enzymes, over 100,000 reactions going on in here, they are vital. So as you get fitter and you bring in more oxygen, more nutrients to your blood flow better, you need to have more machines to cope with this. And one of the things you'd find is that your mitochondrial or power pack number have increased in number to make you more efficient. Thank you. Next one. Now, in our business, one of the particular of 200 products, we have many, but one which is fairly revolutionary and is used by a lot of professional athletes now, as well as every day. I had one for breakfast this morning. It's a sort of fairly revolutionary nutritional shake. That's what I would call it, which happens to have protein in it, and amino acids and carbohydrates, vitamins, all the things you would need. Contains about 50% of the RDA, which is fairly meaningless because we have to take everybody individually into consideration. It is made up of very high soy isolate protein, but the other thing about it, which most people seem to like, is the fact that in it is a powder system with protein digesting enzymes, proteases, so that when you mix it and you drink it, it starts to help breaking down that protein into amino acids, which are then made available for absorption, and that's the important thing, the bioavailability of that protein, meaning the amount of protein you take in your diet that gets into your body for use. So whilst we see a lot of protein shakes, as they're called, with loads of protein, double the amount we have probably, that is not an issue as far as I'm concerned, because what is important is how much of that is actually being taken into the body. And that is the big issue. We know that isolate has a fantastic amino acid profile. We also know it has branched chains, which are good for supplying energy. It's got glutamine, which is found in muscle anyway. And a lot of the athletes who use this are saying how much better it is than some of the ones they've used, how much smoother, they don't have flatulence, and this relates to digestion and absorption function. Anyway, we move on to our final product, so I can tie them up. Next one, that's it. One of our biggest sellers these days is what is known as RG. RG is a very important amino acid. It's got 3 Nobel Prize winners behind it. 30 years of research went into this. Luis Ignara, Robert Fuscott, and Ferid Murad, who worked on this for 30 years because they discovered that the arginine, L-arginine, actually dilated blood vessels, and it does this naturally, but if you add more, it helps to increase it. And by dilating blood vessels to active tissue, they were actually researching the use of L-arginine into strokes in medicine. And by using the L-arginine, obviously, in dilating blood vessels and helping them relax, it means that when you're exercising, you are increasing the blood flow to active tissue, which in turn means more pulmonary blood is going to the lungs, picking up oxygen, getting rid of carbon dioxide. More is being delivered to active muscle tissue where you need more nutrients, more glucose, more amino acids, and it's also helping to deliver more oxygen, and it thus will tend to delay the onset of what we would call oxygen death or oxidative stress, so that it prevents the muscle switching over to anaerobic means of energy release and producing lactic acid. And one of the things we have found, even trying it out with triathlon runners who I've advised, cyclists and so on, is that they do make comments that even with the so-called placebo effect, they have tried sort of using it for long periods and coming off it, they find it definitely seems to help. It also helps them in the recovery, so it can be taken after, post a hard training session. Again, increasing the blood flow to repairing muscle tissue. So again, you could use that in combination with shake, which have amino acids in. And it's also being used by bodybuilders who are trying to deliver more muscle and protein and amino acids to muscles that have undergone heavy resistance training. It's used by my wife for lowering blood pressure, would you believe, and it's very successful. So there are all sorts of reasons for using this product apart from the sport. It's interesting that in Tibetans, which they live at high altitude, they've actually found that their levels of arginine and the production of nitric oxide are nearly 10 times higher than people at sea level. So that's an interesting adaptation to altitude. Apart from the fact they also have high red blood cell count, high hemoglobin, high myoglobin, which is an oxygen holding pigment in muscle. And this is one of the effects, I mean these are one of the many effects that you would experience as an athlete when you go up to high altitude training. That's something that was discovered during the Mexico Olympics. But if you go up to high altitude training where oxygen is much more rare, there's not so much as at sea level, as you adapt, your vital capacity increases, meaning the amount of air you can breathe in one breath increases because your intercostal muscles are having to work harder to expand your rib cage and inflate your lungs. So that exercises them more effectively. The body also reacts to this rarity in oxygen by producing more red blood cells containing hemoglobin. So again, this is where you would need more protein, iron and so on. And also this myoglobin content of muscle increases, holding oxygen for the athlete, only giving it up to the muscle at the last minute to prevent them going into the anaerobic phase if possible. So these two products alone have quite a sort of high presence in our business amongst athletes, but they are by no means the only ones. Now, I don't know how I'm doing for time, but I think I'm more or less covered what I intended to cover. Okay?
Peter, yeah, it's Fergus. That was absolutely spot on for time. We've had some questions come in, so I'm just going to ask you a couple of these, and then go back to Kate to maybe just so she can talk to us a little bit more about Forever Living and how our members can sort of get involved with that. Is that okay to just pop these questions to you quickly?
Yeah, that's fine. I can answer them. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of people have typed in questions relating to people that aren't already physically active. So we've got our high-level athletes. You know, it sounds like all these products are going to work really well alongside what they're currently doing. But at UK Active, we're very much about trying to make sure the people that aren't physically active are starting to move. Can you explain a little bit, Peter, about how some of these products would work alongside maybe someone that isn't quite at the elite level yet?
Right, well, we do use them at that level as well, obviously, because we have got elite athletes, we've got professionals, but we've also got right up at the other end. And these products are used in the weight management we do with ordinary people, if you like, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So I call it a nutritional shake, because that's how I see it. It is a nutritional shake. You know, too many people use the word protein shake. The protein shake really is a shake that has a tremendous amount of protein in it, or perhaps a bodybuilder. We're talking about a different area. I call ours a nutritional shake with a good amount of protein in it. It's got about 50% of the recommended daily intake for somebody who's not overactive. So the shake is absolutely brilliant for part of our weight management program, which if you're trying to help somebody get fitter, is not a bad way to start. I know weight loss is best done by diet and exercise, but you will come across people where they need to have help in losing weight as well as exercise very gently to start with, because they may not be in a position to do a lot. And that's where we could use it there as well. So I hope that sort of helps answer that one, because what you're dealing with here is a substitute system for a meal, for a breakfast, which is very, very, very good. And we do a program called Clean 9, a 9-day program, which uses this, plus obviously our aloe vera products. And we also do beehive products, pollen, which is very high in it, and that's added to help our metabolic rate work better, because pollen's also been used, say, by athletes since the Mexico Olympic Games.
Just quickly, Peter. Kate, do you have anything to add on that? Just going off the back of what Peter's just said.
Yes, absolutely. I think Peter's talked about the elite athlete market. That is a very new marketplace for us, and the only reason we've been able to go into the elite athlete market and guys that are doing this professionally is because we now batch test our products. We have no banned substance certification on several of our products. The majority of people that use our products are not athletes. The majority of people that use our products don't even go to the gym. And I think that was very important to say. They are normal people.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's not just the elite side, it's people that care about their bodies and go to the gym and want to put the best in their bodies. But it's also people I've got a 70-year-old who's a marathon runner who uses our products, but I've got lots of friends of mine who don't even go to the gym. So it is literally anybody and everybody. So when we speak about elite athletes, that's a completely new market that has only come around within really the last 18 months because we now batch test. And the majority of people that use them are just normal everyday people that care about themselves and their health.
Yeah, I think that's really important to touch on, and I really appreciate you jumping in with that, because, you know, there is something out there for everyone. It doesn't have to be a product that can work for an elite athlete and someone that has only just started training. What you were sort of going into is the fact that some of your products are there for different levels of health and fitness.
Yes, it is actually the same product. So the RG I use, but also we have, you know, as Peter said, triathletes and bodybuilders and rugby players and Notts County Football Club that use them. But the only reason they can use it, we've been using it for a long time, the only reason they can now use it is because we batch test.
Yeah.
And we've done it through HFL Sports Science, and therefore we can say to people that the ones that we've batch tested are clear of banned substances. So that is the newest market for us. The normal market for us is everyday people that give a damn about how they are.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely spot on, Kate. Peter, just wanted to come back to you with one other question that came in. So a lot of our members of UK Active will be operating health and fitness facilities on a day-to-day basis. How important do you think, Peter, it is for these guys to know not everything, obviously, but some of the scientific background behind what they're telling people to have supplement-wise? Do you think that's important?
Well, I just feel basic knowledge on the product is the thing with us. I'm talking this about Kate. Sometimes it's a disadvantage knowing too much, because the ordinary person only needs simple guidance and advice. And with us, we have a 60-day money-back guarantee worldwide anyway. So we're just saying, well, try it and see. It costs you £20, £80, whatever it is. You need to try these out for 60 days, and we'll see how you get on. And it's a very sort of, it's a fantastic way of trialing it. We actually say to them, you're on a trial, you know, we're trying it. Well, 9 out of 10 people are happy with it. You know, try it and see for yourself. So it's not a hard sell type of situation.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, in 15 years of actually working the business on the retail side, I've had 2 products returned. One hadn't even been opened. So
Well, there you go. That's a fantastic stat for people listening in. You know, there is something to prove that this stuff is really doing what it says on the tin, so to speak. Peter, thank you so much for that. That was really, really interesting. Kate, I've got one final question that I wanted to direct towards you, because I think you'll be suitable to answer it. A couple of questions have come in saying, you know, can you give us an example of where someone's using it in a business, maybe a gym facility or something like that, and also what do we do if we want to get our hands on some of this stuff and start marketing it ourselves?
Okay, there's a chap called Gary Easter. There are many actually, but a guy I know very well called Gary Easter is an ex-paramilitary. He was in the parachute regiment. He's built like a brick outhouse. He's also, when he came out of the regiment, he opened up the largest independent gym in Dorchester. And he actually got involved with this product because he was personally training one of the guys within the company. And Gary had a ligature problem. And he had ultrasound, he had cortisone injections, he had everything that the gym could throw at him, because obviously he had access to everything. And he was about to go and have an operation. And before he had the op, Andy actually said to him, look mate, why don't you try this? And Gary, being Gary and a bloke, said, no, it's all right, I'll have the op. And he said, don't be ridiculous, try it for a couple of months. As Peter said, if it doesn't work, you get your money back, there is no risk. Anyway, Gary did not have that operation.
Wow.
because it helped the problem that he had had for 2 years. So because he had such a passion about the personal benefit he had had, he took these products into his gym. Gary now still has the gym. In fact, I think he's sold the gym now, but he was not running the gym. He had a manager in the gym, and he was working this business full time because he knew it was giving his clients a better way of living, a better way of life. He was training their bodies, but what he wasn't able to do within the gym until he got these products was look at the holistic side of what they were doing. So he was then able to recommend to them the guys that were, that were going to run a marathon, that were doing the triathlete, that were just gym goers, that wanted to beef up a bit, that wanted to do various things and help their own bodies. He was able then to recommend certain products to them, knowing that if they didn't like them, or if they didn't get the result that he thought they should get, they could get their money back. Now, again, we are not hard sell with either the business or the product. And so Gary took that into his gym and ended up with a manager in the gym and was working forever full-time, helping other fitness professionals to do the same as him, because we all know that it's a tough market out there. And at the moment, gyms sell memberships. And it's almost like they sell memberships, and then we all know what happens. January comes, everybody goes in and wants to get fit. They go for a month or two if you're lucky, and then they don't go back. And so you're on a constant treadmill of getting more and more and more bodies in through the door.
Yeah.
What if those bodies could bring in another source of income via other products, not just ours, but maybe clothing, or having a chiropractor in the gym, or having a physio in the gym, and getting them involved and looking after them more as a whole than just getting their money, getting the numbers up and getting them on the treadmill.
So you're talking about, I mean, there's obviously a secondary spend conversation to be had in there, but also on the retention side of things as well.
Yes. Exactly, you've got it, because if people feel they're being looked after, they don't go to the next cheap option of a gym. If they feel they're getting value for money because somebody in there is looking after not just their physical needs, but their other needs with some products. If you've got somebody who's got eczema, psoriasis, or diverticulitis, or Crohn's, or all these things that like 1 in 4 people suffer from, and somebody's helped them with a product, because that's also where our products sit, they build relationships, and we all know that people do business with people if you have a relationship. And so what happens is they don't then get just the extra income source from the person who's joined the gym. They may well get a referral for a product from somebody else who's not even at the gym. So they might not go to the gym to be trained, but if their mate has had a great result with something from one of our products, he's going to tell his mates. And guess what? His mates are going to say, where'd you get it from? Well, I get it down the gym. They will walk into the gym to buy product. Do you get what I mean here?
Yeah.
So you're getting a double whammy, and then potentially you're also getting another member. Because if they're hacked off with their gym, and they're seeing that these people really do care, it's not just lip service, they may well join the gym.
I see exactly what you're saying.
There's a much bigger picture here, and I know I've been trying to find it on my emails here. There was the other day through UK Active Media Review, there was a report by Oxygen Consulting.
That's the one, yeah.
That's my memory, yes, that said people need to look out of the box. It's not just about getting numbers through the door. They need to be cared about. It's not quite giving back because you're selling a product. If you're giving knowledge to people, and yes, they will need to gain the knowledge that, not all the knowledge Peter's got, because I think that's a bit impossible.
Yeah.
Because he blows my mind as well. But to have that bit of knowledge about the product, which does take some training. But they could get their CPD points from that.
You're exactly right. Kate, that was fantastic, and Peter, thank you very much. But we are just about out of time. Guys, what I'm going to do is when I put this link up online, I'll put some information, a bit of information below, and some contact details where you can contact Kate. Is that okay, Kate?
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, go on.
Fergus, can I say thank you very much for the opportunity as well?
Of course, of course. Hopefully, as soon as we're done, it'll be up online and there'll be an opportunity for lots of other people to listen in. If anyone out there wants to point their staff in the right direction, the website is www.ukactive.com. Everyone listening in, it's about that time of year where you need to get online and book your flame places as well. Thank you very much, Kate and Peter. You've been absolutely brilliant, and everyone else listening, we will see you again.
Thanks very much.